I have accordingly directed the administration to ensure that the Rules Committee meets at least quarterly. Indeed, we have important business ahead of us. It is this committee and the Joint Rules Committee that must assist Parliament to process, amongst others, the Zondo Commission report. Therefore, it is this, honorable members, I wish to encourage all of us to make use of this committee to ensure that by the end of this term of Parliament, we can be proud that we've been able to strengthen the oversight function and through a rules dispensation that enables the National Assembly and Parliament broadly to fulfill its constitutional mandate. I thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, we have an agenda before us. Can somebody move for the adoption of the agenda?
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Singh.
Good morning to you and good morning to all our colleagues. Honorable Speaker, I would like an item included on the agenda, which we had below the line for some time before. I can't see it now, on the establishment of a committee, oversight committee for vote 1, the presidency. I think you would recall, Honorable Speaker, that we did agree that this matter will be below the line and that the Rules Committee at its next meeting would discuss this. I did send a formal letter as well to the Secretary of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Honorable Singh. Are you therefore moving for the adoption of the agenda?
With that amendment, if there aren't any.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Honorable members, shall we then proceed to deal? Are there any apologies?
Madam Speaker, I would like to register the apology of the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tasso. Thank you. Apologies from Honorable DS, noted. We then proceed with the items on our agenda this morning. Honorable members, yes. Honorable Kubutile Kyanki.
Yes, Chair, just on a procedural matter, Chair, there would have been a mover for adoption of the agenda.
Thank you.
There would not have been a support for that. And but besides the support, there is a new item proposed.
Yes.
To be included in the agenda, which has not been processed, because I would have had a different view that such a matter would need to be referred to the subcommittee or from yourself if you have received such, because matters to the subcommittee are referred by the Speaker to us as a subcommittee. So I'm not sure how we're going to attend that matter in this meeting, unprocessed as it is.
Thank you, Honorable Kyanki. The matter has been put on the agenda, and I did ask if people are adopting the agenda, and you did not raise your hand. That matter now is on the table. You will discuss and agree whether you want to take it off on the agenda for processing.
Yeah, just a correction, my hand was up immediately, just that maybe you did not see.
It does not appear that. I'm really sorry then.
Thank you.
It does not appear. Okay, I'm really sorry. Actually, there are more hands. There is Mr. Kaso and then Shivambo. Let me start with you, Shivambo, before I allow Mr. Kaso.
No, thanks, Speaker. The matter is on the agenda. If someone has got a different perspective of what must happen with that item, they will raise it when it appears on the agenda. What is the problem with that? It's quite simple. If you have got a view of what must happen with that process, speak about it when the agenda item arrives. It's as simple as that. Why would you want to remove an issue on an agenda because you've got a different perspective on what you think must happen?
No. Honorable Shivambo, please. I have, please lower all those who are going to speak on this matter, lower your hands. because I will not allow a debate right at the beginning on the agenda. If people come across issues which they wouldn't want to entertain at this meeting, people will then express their views at that point. I'm not going to allow for a discussion on the matter, honestly, otherwise it means that we will take time just discussing the agenda. Thank you very much, Honorable Kwahube. Please lower your hand if it is on this matter. When the time
It's not on the matter, Speaker.
Thank you very much. What is the issue then?
You seem to also have missed my hand. I had written to you, Speaker, about an addition that I wanted to make to the agenda regarding the amendment of the rules to reintroduce interpellations. I was asked by your office or the secretariat of the meeting to then raise it as an additional item on the agenda instead of it being automatically added from your side. So I'm just asking that that it be added below Honorable Singh's item, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Then you may lower your hand. Now, Mr. Kass, you had your hand up. I will allow you to respond.
Madam Speaker, I'm okay. I've withdrawn my hand. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, indeed, as we deal with these issues, I see that as we consider the agenda, indeed, I do have here an item of reintroduction of interpellations by Ms. Kwahube and Honorable Kwahube, and an establishment of oversight committee with the presidents. And these are two matters which have been raised by the two members. Unprocessed as they are, honorable members, but the items are on the agenda of the meeting. And then at the point when we get to those items, I am really hoping that members will express their views on the matter with regards to these issues. Honorable members, may we now proceed to look into the draft minutes of the meeting of the 13th of August, 2021. Yes, will you please scroll? Okay. 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 Thank you. Thank you very much. And shall we then proceed to adopt the minutes? Is there anyone who is ready to adopt the minutes? Adoption of the minutes, please. And please don't hesitate if you're, thank you, Memoroto. Memoroto.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. I move for the adoption of the minutes as a true reflection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Buroto. Any seconder, colleagues? Honorable Kubutile.
There being no corrections, I support the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kubutile Kyangi. We then proceed with the minutes having been adopted. I will request Mr. Kaso to take us through matters arising from the minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the first item the last, second last item, Madam Speaker, related to rules regarding election of office bearers. Just to give the context here, this was just before we elected the speaker last year. And there was a sense that because of the time it takes to print the ballot papers, that maybe we should arrange that we have nominations ahead of the sitting. And a view was raised that maybe we need to talk to the Chief Justice and see if we could adjust the rules that regulate that election. We have looked at the matter, Madam Speaker, and our view is that maybe we should not pursue this because the Constitution does grant members the right to make nominations in the sitting itself or during the sitting itself. And therefore, even if we had an arrangement that there could be nominations ahead of the sitting, that would still not prevent members from raising nominations during the sitting. And therefore, we are proposing that maybe this is not a good idea. We should abandon that proposal. The last item dealt with the establishment of a new committee, and that has since been implemented. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Clarify that to me. The last part was. Thank you.
The last item was the establishment of a new portfolio committee, because there was a separation of water affairs and water and sanitation ministry. So therefore, there needed to be a committee to exercise oversight on each of the components.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tasso. Honorable members, are there any comments on the matters arising from the matters raised by Mr. Tasso?
My hand is up, Honorable Speaker.
Today. Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much, and greetings to all honorable members of this platform. Thank you very much, Mr. Tasso, for the matters arising. I support the first matter that because there is a report attached on the issue of questions, let's discuss that matter as itemized. Two, I second that we have implemented, Honorable Speaker, the unbundling of human settlement, water and sanitation. So that was done. On the matter of election of presiding officers, in line with the Constitution, how the president and the speakers get elected, let's adhere to that. And not come with other processes. I second that. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip. Honorable Kubutile.
And was some law I am covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, then we proceed. Are there any other matters and the matters arising which you'd like to discuss or you'd like to comment on? Okay, if there are none, Honorable Machotina, you still have your hand up? Chief Whip, you have your hand? Okay.
Hi, Mama, it's a legacy hand, my apology.
Okay, thank you very much, honorable members. We then proceed to look into the items on the agenda for this meeting. Honorable members, we've now looked at matters arising, and we are now looking into item number 5, considering of name changes for portfolio committee, which is Annexure C. And I'm sure we all have documents. You do have Annexure C. Okay, take us through? Mr. Clausen?
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. Okay. This relates to the change in the naming of portfolios of government, and there were new names. For instance, communications and digital technologies now. Environment, forestry, and fisheries was changed to forestry, fisheries, and environment. Higher education, science, and technology is now higher education, science, and innovation. Trade and industry, and competition. We are therefore proposing that the names of our portfolio committees be synchronized with the names of these ministries or departments, and therefore we have new portfolio committee names for the departments or the ministries identified. And that's really the essence of our proposal, Madam Speaker, just to formalize the process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clausen. Honorable members, are there any problems with that? I'm sure we do support this. These are changes which were effected in the portfolios of government. Mamuroto?
Thank you, Speaker. I just want to move that we adopt the names as they have been changed of the departments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mamuroto. Honorable Machotina?
Honorable Speaker, can I assume, Honorable Speaker, that it is only about the name change? There are no additional portfolio committees that are going to be created, unlike the previous one where we had to unbundle human settlement and water and sanitation. Is this only about the name, to align the name of portfolio committees with that of departments in terms of the ministries?
Well, from what I have seen in my document, Honorable Member, Chief Whip,
Yes.
2.2 talks to name changes, and then it goes on to list the names of portfolio committees whose titles have been changed. And we have 5 of those, and we have 5 members who are new ministers who have been moved into these portfolio committees. And that's what for now I am talking to. You agree that these are the portfolio committees, am I correct? For now, in this, there is no new committee.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Singh?
No, Honorable Speaker, I was going to second the adoption proposed by Honorable Broto. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Honorable members, we then proceed to deal with the third item on the agenda. And the third item, the 6th item on the agenda is the feedback on investigation into allegations of gender-based violence and related matters arising from events of the 9th and 10th of June, 2022. And this is Annex D in your files, honorable members. Honorable members, I will request Honorable Kaso to take us through the reports. Just take us through the reports, just give us the findings, give us the recommendations. We don't have to go through everything. And then allow for this report, because this report, in my understanding, is not going to be discussed at this forum. Am I correct, Mr. Kaso? It's a report for the subcommittee. Am I correct?
Ma'am, can I explain as I explain the report? Yes, ma'am.
Please do. Yes.
Madam Speaker and honorable members, just to indicate that why this report is before this meeting today.
Yes.
The report is before this meeting today because the matter arises from House proceedings.
Yes.
The matter arises from the application and the adherence to the rules. And therefore, this is the committee that has the authority to pronounce on the issue of application and the adherence to rules. And therefore, we advised that it should serve before this committee, even if it's for noting of most of the issues that have been raised. That's number one. Number two, the report itself, the full extent of the report has been made available to the AFF, who is the party that registered the complaint. And of course, the speaker would have the report as a person who investigated, or the office that investigated, that commissioned the investigation, and also been made to the Secretary to Parliament for implementation of those matters that would affect the administration. Senior counsel was enlisted to deal with this matter, and there was a proper investigation as far as we're concerned. And these are the recommendations that have been made in relation to the administration. One, that no female member of parliament should be touched by a male member, and no male members of parliament should be touched by female members, and that PPS, Parliamentary Protection Services, be well resourced, and the number of female security personnel be increased, and that there should always be an adequate number of PPS on the precincts, and that the threats towards PPS personnel should be taken seriously, and Parliament should not wait until something drastic happens to a PPS member for it to take these threats seriously. I would just like to remind honorable members that in the rules, the 9th edition of the rules, we have Appendix C. Appendix C deals with the standard operating procedures regarding the removal of members from the chamber. Therefore, my recommendation on this aspect is that this committee may consider referring that parts of that aspect to the subcommittee to the extent that it may need to review certain aspects of the standard operating procedures that are applicable to the removal of members from the House, just to take into account some of these issues. And of course, largely, these matters would relate to the administration in terms of increasing of personnel. Secondly, the report dealt with matters that relate to members of parliament. That members should obey and abide by the rules, that when they are requested to vacate, should vacate, and that the issue really is attitude towards the rules, and that members should accord respect to the PPS personnel and not verbally abuse or physically abuse the members, and that indeed the speaker should discuss this matter with the leadership whippery, and that's part of the reason why it's here, because this committee in the main are whips of the NA, and it's meant this meeting is meant to achieve that, to highlight these issues. And honorable speaker, as members would have seen in the report, the investigator did find that indeed there was violence on the day on both sides, and that the speaker, whatever she did on the day, was in line with the rules. So, honorable members, that is what the report says. The one on the physical removal of members, which we'll still go to, is the one that talks to the Powers and Privileges Committee, that the matters be referred to Powers and Privileges Committee. But this is where it ends. Thank you, honorable speaker.
Thank you, honorable. Thank you, Mr. Castle. Honorable members, one of the issues which was raised with me yesterday, people drew my attention to the fact that not everybody has received this report on GBV allegations against the speaker. Now, may I just propose that we look at those critical issues, such as, for instance, recommendation that female members of parliament should not be touched by or removed or ushered out of parliament by male members of the PPS. Shall we just agree on that, so that once we agree in principle on that, the other matters relevant to additional personnel for PPS are matters which will be attended to by the administration? Is that agreed? Are there any hands? I don't see any. If there are none, Honorable Chief Whip.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I do agree with that. It is a practice, it's a norm that you cannot have male personnel touching females, vice versa. So it's a norm. Let's agree to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip. Honorable Shivambu.
No, thank you, Speaker. Please note that we strongly object to this report as the EFF. We don't agree with its observations and the conclusions. We are going to write a far much more substantial objection to it and illustrate sentence by sentence, line by line as to why is it wrong. So many wrong decisions that you took and that are inconsistent with the rules of the National Assembly in the manner in which you handled the removal of members. There are some members whom were not even questioned, they never did anything. So we'll write a fundamental objection to this report. So please note that we object this report. We don't agree with it completely. It's a falsification of what happened in Parliament that particular day. Let's take the note of that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shivambu. I also want the meeting to note that even though parties have not been submitted with copies of this report, that as for the people affected, which is the party concerned, you were provided with a copy of this report by end of June. I just don't have the date here, I'm sorry with me. So you've been having a copy of this report, and one would have really expected that you would have started working on your response for this particular meeting so that by the time everybody starts discussing the report, you would have made your comments on the report. So to say that we should expect, of course, it would be expected that if a report has your name, you may want to comment on the report or you may even want to challenge the report. But I do want to emphasize to members that in fact, this investigation was conducted by an independent panel. So I just thought I should make that point, honorable members. Honorable,
just for record purposes, we did not get the report ourselves. We never got
it. You did, honorable. That I can attest to, and I will ask Mr. Kaso to come in. Honorable Kubutile Kyangi, followed by Honorable Chakude.
As we can tell you whether we received the report or not.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me welcome the report, Honorable Chair, by the Secretary and your additions to it. I want upfront to acknowledge the objection of the EFF and their intention to follow up this report with their own submission. I welcome that. Secondly, Chair, the key recommendations that have been made here, I support the affirmation in this report that says you did the rules, you followed the rules properly, that there's nothing wrong that you did as a speaker on the day in implementing the rules. But the main issue, Chair, here that we must emphasize on, which is a key recommendation made here, is this issue about attitude towards the rules. It makes 2 points from where I'm sitting, that members must obey and adhere to presiding officers when they make the rulings in an attempt to enforce the rules. That is key, because if that happens, you wouldn't even get to a point of inviting Sergeant at Arms and inviting the protection services. So we must all agree and emphasize that, and also support and urge all presiding officers to be fair and firm in enforcing rules. Otherwise, without that, we will always have to deal with such reports. So I thank you, Chair.
I thank you, Honorable Kubutile Kyanki, and I will invite Honorable Doris Zakude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with the Chief Whip of the Majority Party and Honorable Judge that the report as is and the recommendations thereof we accept it, and also to emphasize that as Chief Whips of different political parties, it is our responsibility to lead by example, to make sure that we uphold our own rules that we adopted in the National Assembly, and also to uphold the decorum of the House, because we are not only representing our different political parties here, but we are representing the South Africans, millions of South Africans who voted for our parties in order for us to be here. So we cannot make rules and break them. And also there are mechanisms on which we are afforded as members of Parliament. If we are aggrieved as per our rules, then where to take our grievances to. We cannot disrupt the proceedings of the House. That is our plea, that at least if as members of Parliament, we behave ourselves and make sure that we adhere to our own rules, then none of this will happen. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, no female member of Parliament or the protection services should be touched in any way or attacked or abused. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zakude. I am reluctant to allow you, Honorable Shivambo, to comment on this matter again, because you've already indicated that you will be making a submission on the report. So if you allow me to proceed to recognize other hands, so that when the time comes when you have made your full submission and comments on the report, then we can deal with this matter at that time. I saw the name of Honorable Papo. Honorable Papo.
I wanted to second that so that we don't have a banter. Otherwise, the banter can take 30 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Papo. Honorable members, with that, yes, Honorable Shivambo, I have ruled, Honorable Shivambo, that I think there's someone has a problem with the network. Can somebody check that? But Honorable Shivambo,
it happens when it is you speaking, Honorable Speaker. With all our other people, once you vule yakho microphone,
oh, I'm sorry. It means that there's something wrong with my system. Sincere apologies. But at least can you hear me, my honorable members? I know my system had a serious challenge yesterday. I didn't realize that even today it's the same thing. Honorable members, am I audible to you?
Yes,
Yes, you are.
Audible.
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
The noise is at the background, but you are very audible.
There is no background here. I'm alone in the study. There's no TV on. Thank you very much. Honorable Shivambu, will you please lower your hand? Because I have now ruled on the matter, and I have said I will afford you the opportunity to comment on the report once you have made your submission on the report. Thank you very much. We now proceed, honorable members, and we proceed to the next action.
But Speaker, you can't just override us like that. You must listen. This is a meeting where when we are calling for attention, you must pay attention, please. What kind of...
Honorable Shivambu, I am paying all the attention. I would not be addressing you if I wasn't paying attention. I've said, I've given you time to comment. You have made your comment. You did say that you want to make a submission. You do not agree with the contents of the report. And I said, we will do that. We'll accept that. We will discuss when you have made your submission. And it is there, Honorable Shivambo. We now proceed to deal with another matter. The next item on the agenda, Honorable, please sometimes honestly try as much to be patient and respect the rulings of a person who is chairing a meeting, because it's not as though you are being ignored, you are being attended to. I have responded to the issues and I have provided a way forward on this issue. And now proceed to deal with the next item, and that item is the consideration of report of subcommittee on physical removal of member from chamber. And that is item number 7, honorable members.
May I proceed, ma'am?
Yes, Mr. Castle.
Madam Speaker, this report is submitted by the subcommittee on the physical removal of a member from the chamber, and that is in terms of Rule 201 of the Assembly Rules. Just to recap what the functions of that committee are and its powers, the subcommittee must consider the circumstances of the physical removal of a member from the chamber as reported to it by the Speaker, taking into account all relevant aspects, including the conduct of the member concerned, the ruling by the relevant presiding officer, the manner in which the member was removed. Of course, in carrying out its functions, the subcommittee may exercise such powers as contained in Rule 167 that relates to powers of committees as it may require. The subcommittee's mandate in considering the circumstances referred to it does not extend to disciplinary proceedings against the member, nor a formal review of the PO's ruling. And the subcommittee must report its findings to the Rules Committee. And that's really the essence of this, Madam Speaker, why the subcommittee is now, this report is here. This also emanates from the events of 9 and 10 June 2022, where certain members were removed from the chamber, physically removed from the chamber. Following that, the Speaker submitted a report to the subcommittee, which is chaired by the Deputy Speaker. And the subcommittee met on the 23rd of June to consider the report as submitted by the Speaker. And the names of the members concerned are listed in the report. If my colleagues could get to that point, please. So these are the names of the members that were removed, physically removed on the day 9th and the 10th of June. Madam Speaker, this report was circulated, so unless directed otherwise, I have no intention to go through each of the paragraphs, but they basically deals with what the Constitution says about freedom of speech and what the powers and privileges says in terms of issues of contempt of Parliament, if the member improperly interferes with or impedes the exercise or performance by Parliament of a House or authority and functions, fails or refuses to comply with an instruction by a duly authorized staff member. And then we have Rule 85, which deals with imputing improper motives to any member or cast personal reflections upon a member, and the process that is supposed to be followed there, that you're supposed to register a substantive motion, which the House would then consider at the appropriate time. Now we cite the report cites Rule 26, which deals with the powers of the Speaker to maintain and preserve order and to ensure the proper decorum of the House. And that Rule 67, I think it's very important to just emphasize that rule, that during a debate, any member then speaking or offering to speak must resume his or her seat, and the presiding officer must be heard without interruption. That is why sometimes when the Speaker is addressing the House or presiding officer and other members speak, members would see mics being muted because the presiding officer is supposed to be heard without interruption. That is in terms of Rule 67. And Rule 69 just gives detail in terms of what should not be done. Maybe I should read this one. That members may not engage in grossly disorderly conduct in the House and its forums, including deliberately creating serious disorder or disruption in any manner whatsoever, physically intervening preventing, obstructing, or hindering the removal of a member of the House who has been ordered to leave the House, persisting in making serious allegations against a member without adequate substantiation, or following the correct procedure, or using threatening violence. Members would have noticed that members who obstruct or intervene when another member is removed is also accordingly removed because the rules, that's what the rules stipulate. Rule 70 provides that if the presiding officer is of the opinion that a member is deliberately contravening a provision of the rules or disregarding the authority and that member's conduct is disorderly, the presiding officer may order the member to withdraw immediately from the chamber for the remainder of the days. Honorable Speaker, Rule 73 basically deals with the removal procedures that are supposed to be adhered to when members are removed. Just getting straight to the findings of the subcommittee. The subcommittee considered the report of the Speaker and unanimously agreed that the Speaker had exercised immense restraint on the day and that all rules relating to points of order and maintenance of order were adhered to from the side of the presiding officer, and there was consensus with the view of the Speaker expressed in the reports table that it is necessary to affirm the rules of the House, which are intended to ensure that orderly debate can occur and that all members as elected representatives can perform their duties. Should members wish to raise concerns of any kind, they are empowered to do so in accordance with the rules, including challenges against rulings of the presiding officer. It also noted that there had been some publicly stated intentions before that sitting of the 9th and the 10th. The committee noted as a matter of concern the invasion of the floor of the chamber by a member in front of the mace, and the committee thinks that that was a serious transgression, as was a physical interference with the sergeant at arms while carrying out an instruction from the Speaker to remove members. And it affirmed that the members were physically removed from the chamber and the precincts were removed because of their disregard for the authority of the chair when they were called to order by the Speaker. The recommendation from the subcommittee, Madam Speaker and all the members, is that the subcommittee recommends that the conduct of the identified members of the party be referred to the Powers and Privileges Committee to establish if there was a breach of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act. As indicated earlier, this committee does not have disciplinary powers. So hence the recommendation that the Powers and Privileges Committee looks into this matter and makes a determination. That is the recommendation, Madam Speaker, of the subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Castle. Honorable members, that is the report on the removal of members, physical removal of members from the chamber, and with specific reference to the removal of members on the 9th and 10th of June. Honorable members, I do not know if you want us to entertain the report. What I see, which is of paramount importance, is that here there's a whole lot of going over the rules, just which helps us to remind ourselves about what the rules say. What is important is to deal with the findings and proceed to deal with the recommendations. But I leave it to you, honorable members. Honorable Majotina, you were the first one to raise your hand, followed by Honorable Shivambu, and then Honorable Al-Jamaa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to note this report and agree with the recommendation that let it be referred to a relevant committee, which is Powers and Privileges. Let's not discuss this report. Let it be referred accordingly. Let's note it as a rules committee because it has clear findings and recommendations of what must be done, but let it be referred accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There's a proposal, honorable members, that the report as per recommendation of this report before us, that we refer this report to the subcommittee on powers and privileges. Are there any contrary views? Honorable Shivambo?
No, Speaker, this
Yes,
this report is absolute rubbish. It's absolute nonsense that is written here with lots of factually inaccurate things. And you can see that
Point of order.
Honorable Shivambo, you can express your same feelings. You can actually object to the report without using language which you just. You can say the same thing, but say it differently. Honorable Shivambo, please.
But this is a parliament meeting, Speaker, and these words in parliament are allowed. There's rulings in parliament in terms of usage of the words I've just used.
You are so correct, Honorable Shivambo. I found that indeed people say when you say rubbish in parliament, it is not unparliamentary, but just common decency determines that as we engage amongst ourselves as honorable members, but also in the eyes of the public, that at least we should exercise restraint and accommodate one another and be patient with one another. Honorable Shivambo, I'm sorry, Shivambo, Honorable Mayor, I observed Honorable Shifip is correct. The problem is on my side on this system because whenever I speak, you do encounter problems. I'm really sorry about this, Honorable Member. Honorable Shivambo.
Speaker, I don't agree with the vocabulary of majority, if not all ANC members. You can't put your words in my mouth. I'm using the words that I'm using. It's my vocabulary and it's permissible vocabulary in terms of what I want to describe this report as. That it's absolute rubbish. That it's also even making like patently false accusations that the EFF said publicly that it's going to disrupt parliament. That is false. And this report does not even, if you go and check the footage of what happened and you check the YouTube videos of what transpired, this is fiction which is being written here in this report. It's not a reflection of reality. We are going to object to this, Speaker, and we're going to expose this process that there's a partisan, factional manner in which this parliamentary process is being handled. And we're going to take it to court as well to expose whoever is involved in drafting of this particular partisan, factional, nonsensical, and rubbish report that seeks to criminalize the EFF as an organization that is disrupting parliament. Everything else that we do in this parliament is within the rules of the National Assembly. You might have differently interpreted this, but this is absolute rubbish. We're going to subject it to a court process if we are unable to reverse it here internally. But this is absolute rubbish. It does not reflect what happened in parliament. Even this thing that we planned to disrupt parliament before, there's no way in the EFF statements where we say that there's going to be disruption of parliament. There's never been such. So this must be rejected with contempt, and we must state here that this must be rejected now. And then or we're going to take it to a judicial review process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shivambo. I'm now recognizing Honorable Ajama, followed by Honorable Lisuma, Honorable Buroto, and Honorable Shakude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to comment on the report because we have been advised that it will be referred. However, I'm very disappointed that we didn't get any suggestions in the report about physical removal that has shocked the nation. The drill that is being used for physical removal harms the dignity of women, and it also harms the dignity of men. In the last removal, one of the EF members, their pants were pulled down and you could see their buttocks So there is something wrong with the drill. The drill is carefully planned and organized. And I think that somehow or another, physical remove, there must be alternatives to physical removal. It harms the dignity of Parliament, it harms the dignity of the Speaker or whoever chairs the sitting. And I just hope some attention will be given to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Aljama, followed by Honorable Kuma. Honorable Suma, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and good morning, colleagues and everybody in the meeting. I just wanted to say that some of us will make sure that we don't get distracted and be emotional about the issues. I would like to second the recommendation that was raised by Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party, and you spelled it correctly, Honorable Speaker. The rest, we are not in the gallery where we want to swear each other and be emotional about the issue. And I think the recommendation is appropriate. Let it go to the Powers and Privilege Committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Suma. Honorable Buroto, followed by Honorable Zakude.
Thank you, Speaker. I actually wanted to second the Chief Whip of the Majority Party, as we have been directly guided as to what we must do in this meeting, that this report be taken to the relevant body. And that is where all parties are able to speak for themselves, not in the rules meeting, whether we, to go and to discuss the merits and the demerits. It's not for this meeting. This meeting has been asked to do that, and we are adopting that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Buroto. I see that there are more hands. I will allow you, Honorable Zakude, but if all the hands which are following Honorable Zakude are people who want to concur with the proposal, would you please lower your hands so that we don't spend a lot of time on this item. Honorable Zakude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. As the Chief Whip has correctly said, I concur with that, and I want to emphasize that, Honorable Speaker, the enforcement of the National Assembly rules is the way to go. We can't deviate from that. Whether we like it or not, the rules must be enforced by the presiding officers. And as MPs, we are expected to behave. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zakude. I see Babu Ntombela, you still have your hand up? Yes, I recognize
you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Yes, I concur as well, and I'm sorry for having come late to the meeting. But I just wanted to also to put it across that, Madam Speaker, we cannot allow a situation where Parliament is going to be held to ransom by people who are deliberately and consciously misbehaving to create an environment of rowdiness. We cannot allow that. No matter how difficult or how people presume the manner in which they're not happy with what is happening in Parliament, but creating an environment that is so full of conflict, it cannot be allowed. And then we end up having to admit to that we are wrong and we are being insulted, and words that are being used are not acceptable. Really, it's totally unacceptable. It should not happen. One gets emotional when we think about what is happening in Parliament, and then we're held to ransom. No, it cannot go on like that.
Thank you very much,
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ntombela. Honorable Shivambo, is that your legacy hand?
Okay. Speaker, I've stated my objections to this nonsensical report. No, good challenge.
Can't hear you, Honorable Shivambo. Honorable Shivambo. Are you done? Honorable Papo?
I wanted to say the report is not challenged in court. There is a recommendation which was endorsed that it be referred as in it. It will happen. Whether the parliamentary word of rubbish or nonsense is used, the decision of the committee has to be implemented, that it be referred. These other things are just, they're inconsequential.
Thank you very much, Honorable Papo. We now proceed, honorable members, with all hands having been acknowledged and with everybody having expressed themselves on this matter. I will now proceed to deal with the next item on the agenda. There are two items, honorable members, which were included on the agenda, namely the establishment of the Oversight Committee and interpellations.
Honorable Speaker, we should be on item number 8.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, Chief Whip. Item number 8 is report on reasons for delayed replies to questions by members of the executive. Shall we proceed then to deal with that matter, honorable members?
Madam Speaker, we have prepared and circulated the report on the matter, and I will ask the team to have the report on the screen. The report, Madam Speaker and honorable members, is meant to largely give reasons for delayed replies as forwarded to Parliament by ministers, but also to propose interventions, what can be done to assist the process. Now, just in terms of the background, last year, 2021, a new approach was adopted, which says that when the speaker writes to the executive about delayed replies or absence of replies, the speaker must also ask the executive for reasons why there were such delays. So this procedure was started in June 2021, and it has been applied since then. And hence we think that it is now time that we perhaps the NA should assess some of the reasons that are given. Point 2 indicates the purpose of questions: to seek information from cabinet members and to press them for action about matters under their control. And Rule 134, questions must relate to matters for which cabinet members are officially responsible. And Rule 145 provides the time frames that a question for written reply must be replied to within 10 working days, provided that the minister may in writing request the speaker for an extension not exceeding a further 10 working days. So all in all, you would then have 20 days if there was a delay. Some of the reasons given broadly, Madam Speaker, are that relate to the technical nature of some questions, that this leads to delays, challenges in gathering and verifying information, and research where information, we should have said, where information is not readily available. Secondly, that certain questions relate to provinces, local government entities over which ministers have no or have limited control. And of course, some of the challenges arise from changing departmental management, for instance, where some people would have left their positions. Some comments and observations are that, as members would know, that parliamentary questions are an essential tool for members to oversee and hold the executive accountable. And what we have observed is that members are indeed making more use of questions, as perhaps what they should do. In general, we think that the 10-day deadline for replies to questions is reasonable. We have checked internationally that there seems to be a consistency on that. Among the reasons for delayed replies reported by ministers is a need for and reliance on information sourced from provinces, as we have indicated, local governments, for which they have limited control. And in some cases, questions do not fall strictly within the ambit of ministerial responsibility. Other questions may seek information of a technical nature. And we think that some of these challenges may be addressed through some procedural reforms. And of course, others would require the attention of the Office of the Leader of Government Business. We are therefore asking that the Rules Committee consider the reasons provided by ministers for these delayed replies. And we are also proposing draft guidelines to perhaps assist this process. One, that the executive may not exceed the 10, can you go to guidelines, please, colleagues? The executive may not exceed the 10 working days as per Rule 146.1 and 145, or the extension period agreed to by the Speaker as per the same with regard to questions for written reply or questions for oral reply. The executive must answer each and every point raised in a question in a comprehensive manner and also reasonably assist a member to the extent that the information in his or her question is incorrect. In other words, if a member has given a question with factual inaccuracies in good faith, that the member should be assisted there. Members of the cabinet must attend to the management around parliamentary questions to ensure that the time frame set out can be complied with. Go down, please. The maintenance of information and records within departments, a centralized database register of questions and replies, and standardization of responsibilities of parliamentary officers. We think these are matters that maybe we don't have control over, but the Office of the Leader of Government Business could obviously take upon itself. And we have the guidelines would go as follows: where a matter falls outside the responsibility of a minister, or the minister should expeditiously provide the respective member with a response as to the reasons why the matter does not reside in the affected department. Where departments co-sponsor projects in provinces or local government, ministers should only reply with regard to their responsibility. That is what we are proposing. Departments that share functional areas of concurrent responsibilities should only provide replies to the extent of the responsibility the department shares, and not provide any information or responses on behalf of another sphere of government. That's what we propose. Replies to questions, which are commonly known as holding replies, do not constitute a reply to a question and may not be processed as such, where a reply would say, I'm still awaiting information. And that is our proposal. 8 and 9 would rightly belong within the ambit of the LOGB. LOGB should consider the cost implications of questions to departments and may make any recommendations arising in this regard to the Rules Committee. While best practice determines that questions can seek information dating back as far as 30 years, the LOGB should consider providing the Rules Committee with a reasonable cutoff period, especially to source technical or statistical information. Madam Speaker, that is the report we wish to present to this meeting.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, that's the report from Mr. Castle. Are there any observations, comments you'd like to make from the report? Arising from the report, which has just been presented, Honorable Gwahube, followed by Honorable Papa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Mr. Castle. I think that the guidelines are fair. I just wanted clarity on guidelines 8 and 9, I think it was, regarding what is meant by the LOGB should consider the cost. I'm not sure, is it the cost of obtaining the information? So if you can just provide clarity on that. And just to also just re-emphasize the issue around Guide 7, on the fact that holding responses can't be constituted as responses. Some of the issues that we've found, particularly on the repeat offenders of non-response to questions, for instance, like Cocta and others, is that they will consistently simply say that this matter does not fall within my ambit, or I'm still waiting for information from local municipalities and the like. And I think while that may be a valid reason, but I think we should at some point cap it, because ultimately it otherwise hinders the ability of members of parliament to do their job. So I do think that in consultation with the LOGB, that there should be an understanding that some departments will have a more difficult time obtaining responses, but there should be at some point a cap as to how long obtaining that response can take. Otherwise, then you've got just a perpetual sort of delay for a whole year, which is often what happens with some departments. So I think that Guide 7 is quite important in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kwahube. Honorable Kwahube, you are followed by Honorable Papo and then Honorable Singh.
I think the report is quite helpful. I must say the part I didn't understand is that there is the issue of new measures, because we did amend the rules to actually strengthen the area of the role of the National Assembly, the role of the Speaker, the role of the Office of the LOGB. That's why some of the measures which the Leader of Government Business, both in Cabinet and with the various ministries, including staff, have taken, so that at least this year, we don't have a situation of 2021 where there are specific ministries, because it's not all ministries who would have answered, particularly written questions for written reply. So that at least that period before, by the 15th of December, at least most, if not all of the questions should have been answered. And dealing with this issue of many ministries not asking for extensions and not communicating with members when there's a delay, before the first deadline expires, some of the members have suggested that at least the ministry must communicate with the institution, and sometimes even with the member, just to say that they were still sourcing the information from the province or the municipality or so on, so that the member is not be surprised that there is no response. That issue needs to be strengthened. That's the issue which is being raised by the Leader of Government Business with the ministries and the parliamentary liaison officers to actually also keep an eye on that. So I think overall that's the issue, but the issue which I was a bit not clear is which other measures, because currently, as far as I know, the Speaker is implementing the amended rules to strengthen that area and to ensure that there is actually a better numbers in terms of those ministries which have been having difficult problems in responding by the time the year ends. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Papo. Honorable Singh.
Thank you.
Madala Ntombela.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Firstly, I must say we appreciate this comprehensive report that has been given to us. It really takes us forward in ensuring accountability and oversight over the executive. But I think the more important thing is how we monitor and evaluate the kind of time frames for the responses. And Honorable Papo is quite correct. The rules do provide for mechanisms in that regard. But Honorable Speaker, from the time I've been in Parliament, which is a number of years now, I remember very clearly when questions have to be answered, even if they are oral questions, the parliamentary officers of the respective ministers used to have a written response available to that member that asked the question. And I can recall times when even before the minister answers orally, an envelope used to come to me with the answer to the question. And I think we need to get the Leader of Government Business and the executive and parliamentary officers to look into that aspect, So we have a written response in front of us. So even when there are questions that are not answered orally in the House, and where you yourself, the Honorable Speaker, or a presiding officer says the rest of the answers will be provided in writing, those answers should be available with the minister or the parliamentary officer and given to us immediately in the House. I think that system that we had previously worked very, very well, and I'm hoping that somebody can take it up again as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Thank you, Honorable Singh. And the next on my list is Honorable Ndombela. And I think Honorable Ndombela, you are the last one on the matter now.
Oh, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The report is quite appreciated. I wish, Madam Speaker, we could also put emphasis on the manner in which members of parliament respond in a situation where answers from the executive, an answer from the executive is not sufficient. I know that there are measures where people could write and so on. There are measures to address that, but also the manner in which members respond in a situation where they are not happy with the answers. I think there should be a way in which we try to coax members into a particular restraint, so that the decorum of the House is always protected. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ndombela. Honorable members, lower your hand, Baba Ndombela. It seems we have exhausted this issue. As Honorable Papo said earlier on, there has been constant follow-up from the side of the presiding officers on questions which have not been responded to, which are outstanding from members of the executive. Firstly, honorable members, we are kept informed about the numbers of outstanding questions, and then we write letters. I write letters, I sign letters to the leader of government business, so that the leader of government business reminds members of the executive about their own responsibilities. But secondly, I have also written directly to ministers who have not responded to questions. So I just want to reassure members that everything is being done on the basis of the rules which were tightened with regards to accountability to the National Assembly. So we must just continue to monitor and continue to put forward proposals through that subcommittee, Comrade Doris Klakude, on how best we can tighten these processes through the rules. But for now, I think we're trying our best. And I also believe that the members are also trying, but maybe let me hear Mr. Kaso what you want to say.
After you've concluded, Madam Speaker, I wanted to then propose that maybe, as Madam Speaker has said, that these proposals that we've made could then go to the subcommittee, which may then decide to refine them before they are adopted as interventions. And also, Honorable Kwahobe asked the issue of costs, and wanted to say the sense here was that maybe Parliament needs to get a sense of the costs involved, because it could be that some of the reasons for the delayed replies and related matters relate to the cost. That it could get a sense of what is involved in obtaining some of this information. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaso. Honorable members, that was the proposal, and that was the final comment on this matter of questions to the ministers. The last item, I think, on my agenda is the one on Oversight Committee on vote number 1, which has been proposed as an additional item on the agenda, to the agenda. But of course, we have noted that this matter has not been processed. So, honorable members, we've now noted this matter on Oversight Committee on vote 1. Can we then get from Mr. Kaso to outline the process of attending to this and finally bring it here?
Speaker.
Yes, honorable member. Honorable Shivambu.
No, thanks. I thought that because the item was proposed by Honorable Singh, he must be the one who leads because he's the one who proposed the agenda item, and then any other reaction can come from the administration or whoever wants to make a reflection on it. That is standard, I think.
Understood. Okay, that's accepted. Honorable Singh, but please bear in mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you for that intervention, Honorable Shivambu. I'm not going to be long on this matter, Honorable Speaker, because I believe all of us hold the Constitution sacrosanct, and it's very near and dear to our hearts. And we always talk about this Constitution being something that the world can be proud of. Now, if we look at the Constitution that we have all adopted, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, if you look at section 57(2), there's an empowering provision there that the rules and orders of the National Assembly must provide for the establishment, composition, powers, functions, procedures, and duration of its committees. That's the empowering provision that gives us the right to establish committees. If you look at section 55 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, section 55(2), it says the National Assembly must provide for mechanisms, and this is the important one, A, to ensure that all executive organs of state in the national sphere of government are accountable to it, and to maintain oversight. That's B, to maintain oversight of the exercise of national executive authority, including the implementation of legislation and any organ of state. I just want to repeat 55(2). The National Assembly must provide for mechanisms to ensure that all executive organs of state in the national sphere of government are accountable to it. I want to contend, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, that the presidency vote, which we discuss annually, is an organ of state. The president is an organ of the executive, and that we must have a committee to oversee the vote, which is known as the presidency. And how we do that is in terms of Rule 225, which Honorable Tasso referred to earlier on when we are discussing the issue of the naming of committees, where it says, Rule 225, Part 10, Portfolio Committees, the Speaker, acting with the concurrence of the Rules Committee, must establish a range of portfolio committees, that's A. B, assign a portfolio of government affairs to each committee, and C, determine a name of each committee. Now, I want to contend, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, that we do not have oversight over vote 1 presidency. And before other colleagues come along and say, yes, ministers in the presidency do report, they are not the presidency. They're part of the presidency given particular responsibilities. And lastly, if, Honorable Speaker, on this one, you know, we see press, I mean, there's a press release that I've got here where they say President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 9 June 2022, update Parliament on the role of the presidency, etc., and he will present the 3rd presidency budget vote of the 6th administration to the National Assembly in Cape Town. Now, I cannot understand, the budget vote covers the 22-23 financial year. I cannot understand, Honorable Speaker, why then that for all these years we have not had oversight over the presidency. And when we mean oversight over the presidency, we don't mean oversight over the president as a person, but he heads the executive. The accounting officer of all the divisions within the presidency has to account to a portfolio committee in terms of the constitution. So that is my submission here today, that we must immediately put this committee in place, and I don't see even any reason for it going to the subcommittee or anywhere else, because it's a constitutional imperative and the rules provide for it. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. And I'll invite Honorable Wahube to comment.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I want to concur with Honorable Singh, but perhaps to just add also very shortly that also what we have started to see is a lot of, for instance, presidential intervention. So, for instance, if you recall, the intervention around the energy crisis, where there's a task team that's put together, or there's a command council that's put together that sits in the presidency. And now that does not fall neatly under any particular department. And so, you know, the oversight of, for instance, that task team can't be performed from a particular portfolio committee. So what we have is a scenario where there isn't a portfolio committee to be able to ask the relevant questions, to ask cost-related questions, and essentially to monitor whether these things have any efficacy at all. And so I would really concur with Honorable Singh that, in fact, there's a very neat solution with 225 this can be done. And I think really it's international best practice as an oversight mechanism. And budget votes debate do not constitute, or at least don't replace, the need for rigorous oversight in the form of a committee where you are able to have continuous oversight over the presidency as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Wahube. Honorable Lisuma.
Thank you very much, Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think in procedural, you are correct to allow Honorable Singh to introduce the item. Ordinarily and logically, having the matter been introduced and its rationale, it has to undergo certain processes. And I will request that before we engage in its merits and demerits, let's get a clarity. How do we process this item so that when we come back, we do have whether we refer it to the subcommittee, I'm not too sure what Mr. Chaso was going to say, but it will have assisted if we can take certain processes other than pushing for it to be finalized now. It has been introduced. Let's go back to the subcommittee so that it can be looked at, and with proposal of demerits of it then can be engaged there technically and otherwise. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lisuma, Honorable Shivambo, Honorable Gyanki, and the last speaker on the matter will be Honorable Chief Whip Machodina.
No, thank you very much, Speaker. The simple and straightforward proposal that is being made here is that we should, as Parliament, establish a portfolio committee on the presidency to oversee all the functions of the president. Because if you were to check the various states of national address and many other interventions elsewhere, there's several committees and commissions and technical teams and intervention teams which are established in the office of the president, and they do not account anyway in terms of what happens, whether it's an energy, on the economy, on a variety, on small businesses, on a variety of things. So it's logical that we should establish a portfolio committee that oversees the work of the president on a constant basis, not just when he comes to give the budget vote of the presidency. I think that is logical. And then, of course, in terms of process, what has to happen will be to submit this concrete proposal to the subcommittee on rules to then concretize it into a rule, and then we then come back to the National Assembly, the Rules Committee, and thereafter the National Assembly to endorse a perspective that a portfolio committee and the president must be established to oversee all the functions and activities of the president, and perhaps can be extended as well to deal with some of the international engagements which the president is engaged in. So it's one of the issues that is long overdue. It was an oversight on the part of the National Assembly not to establish this oversight mechanism as is required by the Constitution. I think as a principal matter, let's move towards that direction. We'll just have to follow the process of rules amendments accordingly so that we do not are not found on the wrong side of process. That is a concrete proposal which we as the EFF fully endorse as proposed by the Chief Whip of the IFP. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shivambu, Honorable Kyanki, and Honorable Machune. But the Chief Whip will be the last one now on the matter. Honorable Kyanki, Kubutile, you gone. Honorable Machutina. Okay. Buyake. Ululu ubuyile ekhaya. Yena
Was Speaker. No, I'll be very brief, Speaker. I think having listened to Honorable Singh, he's placed a comprehensive proposal on the table. I want to add on Honorable Lisoma that for further details and processing, that you, Speaker, under your leadership, you refer the matter to the subcommittee on the review of rules chaired by Honorable Tlakude. And I hope that Honorable Singh would avail some of the document he has for that kind of a discussion. You can determine, Speaker, to the subcommittee as to your own timelines when the matter should be brought back to the committee. That's the only issue I will raise for now. I think the merits and other issues that can be raised, I think will be well placed on the basis of a proper processing of this issue, and we can engage further with it when it comes back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Kubutile. Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I fully agree and concur with Honorable Lisoma, Honorable Kyanki. The reason why we have subcommittees, we establish them to further process issues and bring them with clear proposals to the rules. I fully concur that let's allow the subcommittee to deal with the matter and all information be submitted, and Honorable Singh, when requested to give more info in the committee, let that be taken care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, I've listened very attentively to what Honorable Singh has said, has proposed, his reference to the Constitution, the provisions thereof, but also reference to the rules, and that is Rule 226.
225.
225. Establishment. Then 226, the composition. Honorable members, I think all of us agree that we've taken note of the proposals, and on the basis of that, we will now refer this matter to the subcommittee on rules, and they will then bring it back to the Rules Committee. And I thank you, Honorable Singh, for your proposals and for your patience. Honorable members, having discussed that
Thank you,
matter,
Madam Speaker.
we now proceed to deal with the last item, which
No,
is
no,
the-
Speaker,
Yes.
sorry, Speaker, can we then, is it possible to indicate the timeline so that we don't leave it open-ended? Because this issue, I know on several occasions, has been raised, and can we please at least get some timelines as to what are we working on so that we have got a much more clearer understanding of just when are we going to implement this long overdue and sensible, rational proposal?
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Shivambo. Honorable Kaso, how long, and Honorable Lakude, I'm sorry, Honorable Lakude, when is your next meeting of the subcommittee? And any items for that meeting? And if it is possible, do you think you'll be able to engage on this matter? And then I see that Honorable Papo has his hand, Honorable Boroto, and Honorable Yangi.
Speaker, before Member Tagude speaks, I wanted to raise that issue. Now we're discussing we cannot discuss the logistics of the subcommittee.
So you are saying I should not talk to the issue of timeframes. I should not check with the
No,
people.
not you, Speaker. The issue which was raised by Member Shibam.
Honorable Shivambo seeks clarity on the timeframes. How soon will this matter be implemented? But actually, we should be talking about how soon this matter will be brought back to the Rules Committee for its finalization after the Rules Subcommittee has discussed it. Are you happy with that? No answer, Honorable.
No, Speaker, I don't think it's logistics. I mean, like,
No. Honorable member, please don't budge in. Honorable member, I've got hands here. People have
okay,
raised it, and I'm
my hand
going
is up. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm
My hand-
going according to Honorable Muroto.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, usually when we agree on a matter here to be referred, it is the office of the Speaker that will make a determination in contact and in a conversation with the said committee so that they can sit down and come up with their own program of meetings and what to include in the meetings. I don't think at this stage when this has just been given to us as a proposal and we agree that it goes to the subcommittee, that we now want to push that we get a date today from here. That's not how it works all the time. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Mabroto. Thank you very much. Honorable, thank you.
No, quick one, Chair. Chair, I would have raised the issue of a timeline. It's important. I want to agree with Honorable Boroto that post this meeting, as you instruct or direct the subcommittee chaired by Honorable Dlagude, you would need to indicate that the next committee meeting of these rules would need to receive a report of this matter, and therefore, because you're looking for a reasonable time for us to attend to this. Truly, it can't be open-ended. And so I don't think it's a matter that we must crack our skull on in this meeting. The important thing is that we must agree to a timeline, and I think you can determine that in your directive to the subcommittee, a decision being made in this meeting now about a work to be proceeded on this portfolio, on this issue of the committee.
Thank you. Honorable, thank you. Honorable Shivambo.
No, Speaker, it is not logistics to take meeting resolutions with timelines. It's standard. standard. Like, it's not logistics. Like, we have to say that as urgent as possible, and then by the next meeting, we should be getting a comprehensive report so that we can table it in the National Assembly once the rules amendments have been made. It's as simple as that. It's not logistics. Let us not be simplistic like that, man. Let us not be petty. So let us agree in principle that when the rules committee meets, we should be having finalized this. And if the speaker determines that this is of urgency, we can even convene a special rules committee meeting to endorse and then table it in the National Assembly so that we deal with it. Because I'm sure all of us admit that this is a long overdue and a rational, logical way to could oversee the president in the manner that is proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shivambo, Honorable Kakude, followed by Honorable Machudina.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I hear what the honorable members are saying. Honorable Speaker, as the subcommittee, we have always, when there are matters referred to it, we always try our level best to do our work. So in this regard, nothing has changed. What we will do, Honorable Speaker, is that the subcommittee will make its own assessment as there are other matters before it. So we'll report back to the Rules Committee. That is what I can say. Thanks, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zakote. Honorable Machudina.
Honorable Speaker, I want to call for a point of order. How Honorable Floyd Shivambo talked to us as his colleagues, reducing us to pettiness, calling us names, it is not on. It is not on. Everyone has a right in this meeting to air his or her own view. No one brings petty views here. If we could accord one another a respect, we are all honorable members, and we cannot allow a situation where we get frog jumped to take a decision now when there is a committee that is supposed to process matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Machudina. Honorable Machudina and all honorable members, you may have heard me ask Honorable Zakude as to one, how much work do they have before them before they deal with this issue? Because that would give us a sense of how long it will take for this submission to be made to the Speaker. Now, Honorable Zakude did respond by saying, indeed, they would have to do an assessment of the work which is on their desks right now, and then make a determination of how soon the matter will be discussed. So, honorable members, it seems to me we are all saying the same thing, but each one wants to deal with it in his or her different way. At the end of it all, it is correct that it rests with the subcommittee, which will be dealing with this matter, together with the Speaker, because it says the Speaker will engage with the subcommittee on these matters, and we will look at reasonable timelines. Is that agreed, honorable members? Because this is now how I am summing up this matter.
Agreed. Agreed, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that summation.
Thank you very much, honorable members. The last item on the agenda is the matter raised by Honorable Kwahube on interpellations. Honorable member, do you want to take a lead?
Yes, thank you very much, Speaker, and thanks for the addition to the agenda. Just, I'll be very brief, and I'm more than happy for the matter to be referred in the relevant channels, but I think it's quite important to table the intention here. Speaker, we have all obviously been very much following the reports flowing from the Zondo Commission and the like. And in the reality is that we know that some of our accountability mechanisms in Parliament have their strengths, but they also have their weaknesses, where there has been an unintended consequence of where there's a gap in the system, so to speak. Members of Parliament can hold members of the executive to account by various ways, either through portfolio committees and debates, member statements, written questions, and oral questions. But some of those often have their own limitations where there isn't an opportunity, for instance, to really dig deep into an issue. In fact, I want to reference, for instance, the issue that had taken place earlier this week, where some members felt that the question was answered, the question was not answered, what is a response and what does not constitute a response. And for instance, with member statements in the House, I mean, Rule 133 says that the executive may request. So even when members, for instance, place make a member statement in the House, the executive may, an executive member or a cabinet member may decide to respond or not. So my proposal, Speaker, is that in order for us to strengthen our ability to hold the executive to account and really have rigorous and robust interrogation of some of these matters, we should consider the reintroduction of interpellations in our rules. And interestingly, Speaker, when I looked into this matter, I realized that it was in 2002 that interpellations were done away with. And for me, I'm not entirely sure what the wisdom of doing so was, because if one looks at international best practice of being able to really to conduct proper oversight, you realize this is one of the most effective ways. And interpellations are sometimes often are done in provincial legislatures. And just for the benefit, before I close, an interpellation is something that would be controlled and facilitated by a presiding officer on a particular topic, where the minister and members of the House are able to have small but timed interactions on a particular topic. So not similarly to what the oral questions provide, but a 3-minute interaction where a member may be able to ask follow-up questions, not in the way that we have currently, but a dialogue, so to speak, which now also allows members to be able to feel that it is not just a formulaic way of saying we've got 4 follow-ups, whether we're happy with the response or not, that's that. We are able then to have a dialogue which is constructive, which is structured by the House, as was done before and as is done in many parts of the world. And so, Speaker, I would ask the Rules Committee to consider that we look into the reintroduction of that mechanism, so that it's in a way of tightening up our oversight role as Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Wahube. And now they have the hands of Honorable Papo, followed by Honorable Suma and Honorable Janji.
Speaker, I think the proposal have to also probably be considered by the subcommittee, because some of us have participated in interpellations. There are a lot of weaknesses in them, so we can make our inputs there. There are other measures which the committee can consider of strengthening debate in the House. One of the issues could be in mini plenaries, because interpellations happen in provinces because they are small. With this big sized one, there are many things which we can make proposals. So maybe they should look at it and look at what is currently happening in the various provinces which still have interpellations. In other legislatures, they were actually done away with, and the questions for oral reply were strengthened. Other measures during speeches were introduced, like this thing of a question, you take a question. There are other places where you can even comment after the speech for a minute. So I'm just saying maybe we should refer it. It's not a magic, there might not be magic cubes. I've participated in it in at least in 2 terms, in interpellations. There were lots of problems with it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Papo. followed by Honorable Lisuma.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let's appreciate the introduction of the subject matter and its intention. I will firmly, in line with what Honorable Papo has raised, that let's allow the matter to be discussed and be looked at a subcommittee level. Then the report will come to us, because we've got various experiences even ourselves, but I don't think this is a platform that we can engage on those merits of the issue. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lisuma. Honorable Kianki.
Our speaker, just briefly to say, welcome the placing of this matter. Interpellations are a confined form of a mini debate. They have got their own good points and they would have weaknesses. So I would look forward for us to have that discussion in the subcommittee. I would invite, though, that Honorable Kwarube immediately would need to, as part of the submission she must make, to indicate the gap and the reasons why it would have been seized within 2002. There would have been reason for that, so that when we get into that discussion, we're able to go through all of those. But I think it is a welcome suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kubutile. Honorable Singh.
No, thank you very much. Just not to delay this matter. Yes, I think subcommittee on rules, but I think we must also take into account, Honorable Speaker, what you said in your introductory remarks at the members' training on this matter. And I think that should also be considered by the subcommittee when we look at it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable members, I think this matter has been nicely captured. There may be different views on the matter, but all of us are agreeing that the matter should be referred to the correct committee, and that committee is the subcommittee on the rules for processing. But in addition, I think a point has just been made that it's going to be very important that we go back and look at, amongst others, the reasons why we decided as Parliament to do away with interpellations, so that as we talk possibilities of introducing the interpellations, we also ensure that we will have a way of navigating that situation. I've also noted what Honorable, the one who's moving, Honorable Kwakube, raises about the fact that the feeling that there is a need for this as part of the follow-up on the Zondo Commission report, and that there's been a gap in the system of holding members of the executive to account. All of us have agreed to that. This is a matter we've been talking about and discussing on how do we proceed with the report of the Zondo Commission to ensure that all of the issues or some of the findings which are made against Parliament in that report receive our undivided attention. But as for now, we are now referring the matter of interpellations to the relevant subcommittee for them to look into the matter and come and present the matter to the Rules Committee. Now, that then brings us, honorable members, to the last point on our agenda, and that last point is closing. So, Ndianibulela, honorable members, thank you very much. And I think that really honestly, I want to express a word of appreciation for the manner in which you conducted yourselves in this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Meeting adjourned until the next meeting.
Bese ngazi uhamba apha de kuthiwe agenda. Asifuni ukusetyenzwa.